Here's what happened, guys. California's $1 billion fraud crisis, which is absurd to say, there are estimates that it is in the tens of billions of dollars. We, the American taxpayer, are funding this. As small business owners, we have to root out these fraudulent businesses across our over 1,000 industries here in the US and expose them. It is time to get rid of these businesses for massive change to happen across our industries. And we've got to unite on this so that we have a bigger voice moving forward. And then our country has got to put a stop to this. We have to hold our elected officials accountable to making sure that we have massive change in the system so that we reward small business owners who are doing it the right way. And it's crazy to think I have to say that, but as small business owners here in the US are continuing to learn more about this, we've got to lead by example. I believe small business owners are America's future leaders, and to make sure we get back to our moral values like honesty and discipline, rather than thinking we should just defraud the American taxpayer. That is so un-American to do something like that, and we have to stop this. And it's going to take a lot of us coming together and uniting on this to move forward. And my proposal: no payroll taxes. Minimize the amount of money we are paying in taxes so that there is less chance of fraud occurring with these programs. And so I'm going to share a clip from Nick Shirley's video that he posted yesterday in a specific area relating to hospice and daycare fraud, alleged fraud in California. And then I'm going to talk about the unemployment insurance fraud that is happening and the potential estimates for that, which is in the tens of billions of dollars. I'm going to bring back Minnesota's fraud. I talked about feeding our future and the investigation that happened there, because we have to lay down the groundwork of understanding the crisis, how big it really is, and it continues to grow. As I said, the truth can be uncomfortable. It can be even shocking at times, and this is shocking. But it can give us peace in understanding what is going on around us so that we can move forward and move towards shaping our future, where we can make America's future a small business renaissance. And with this small business first series, it comes back to payroll taxes. How can we move forward into a future with no payroll tax? So let's get into it. Welcome back to the show. I'm going to share a clip from Nick Shirley's video. He's talking with someone in the healthcare industry, and getting their take on what is going on.
This in home healthcare is such a booming business right now.
I think it's become a trend of fraud. Honestly, has I heard about this about 5 years ago during COVID, that people were building hospices and selling them. It was like a business these people made. So it's an easy way to build Medicare with their people's beneficiary numbers that people can easily steal and even purchase and buy. They buy numbers from people and tell them, give me your Medicare beneficiary number and then we'll give you something in return.
And what does that mean?
So criminal organizations, fraudsters can get these numbers off the dark web. When it comes to the specifically unemployment insurance claims, they can get Social Security numbers. We've got to expose them, and we have to stop this, going back to massive change to the system. So let me share with you I'm going to share with you a press release from the U.S. Department of Labor talking about what is going on in California relating to the unemployment insurance fraud. This happened leading up to COVID. During COVID, it was massive, and I'll share with you some backstory too afterwards of what's going on here for what funds these claims. So this is the section I want to highlight here. The California State Auditor has also identified the state's UI program has high risk. The auditor noted that inadequate internal controls failed to prevent suspected fraud during fiscal years 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 2021, allowing the payment of more than $30 billion in potentially fraudulent claims. And this is something you can look up, U.S. Department of Labor website for this press release. But what happened there's a fund, and this is going back to the specific tax, the Federal Unemployment Tax Act, where typically 0.6% on the first $7,000 of employees' wages annually is the rate for the tax. And the employer, so small business owner, you pay that tax. And then it goes into this fund where then claims can be made for unemployment insurance. And so what happened in California was that there was a few billion in this fund, and then there was an influx of claims where these were nationals from other countries like Nigeria, criminal organizations like in China, and there's even, you can even go back to, I'll actually get it back up here so you can see where you can look this up for the different. These are, let me go down. Is it this one? It might not be this one. Okay, no, it's a different one. Let me see if I can find it for the other one to look up. Okay. Yeah, here we go. So this is California's. What I'm going to show you is California's employer. This is California's Employment Development Department that has stats about the fraud cases and the estimated amount of money that's been recovered. And then you know that a lot of this money is already gone, and that's so frustrating to see that. But here we go. Let me get this one up. Okay, so here you go for the investigations, arrests, and so it's did you know? We've recovered more than $5.9 billion in unemployment funds. That is crazy for understanding when you do a little bit more research on, like, were there any internal controls? Was there any oversight as to where this money was going? And it's just creating these what feels like common sense systems that you would do for your own business. Why is that not in our government? And it's something to think about, especially with this conversation of AI, of like, oh, we could use AI. Well, it's like, first create the structure in these systems for oversight and to make it easier to understand where all this money is going. And then how about no payroll taxes to minimize the chances of fraud actually occurring with these programs, and finding other ways to fund them? Because I believe, I've said it before, I believe we would be shocked as to how much money it takes to run our government and how much less money it takes to run our government compared to how much we are paying in taxes. I believe we would be shocked by that number. But in that, actually, let me go back to that so you can look. And this is something you can look up on their website. So on here, this is another story of two Nigerian nationals based in Maryland sentenced for schemes to steal California and other states' unemployment insurance benefits. And again, this is something where people would steal Social Security numbers, put in false claims. And then I'm gonna go back to where you can look at other stories like this. Let me get this one up. Okay, here we go. So, okay, this was where I talked about the amount of money that's been recovered. Again, $5.9 billion in unemployment funds. So you can imagine how much money has been already used and been lost. But this is where the recent arrests and prosecutions have happened. So you can go through this and look at it to just see all the different arrests, prosecutions. And again, we fundamentally, on a fundamental level, must have massive change to the system. We've got to clean up this mess. Going back to U.S. national debt is over $38 trillion. And to think about how we've gotten into that mess and the amount of spending that's been made, and then to find out that California had to borrow $20 billion from the federal government, or roughly $20 billion from the federal government, for this fund that was sending payments out for claims that were made for unemployment insurance. It is concerning. for how big of a problem this fraud is across this fraud crisis is, not just in California, not just in Minnesota, but across our country. And again, Minnesota, I'm going to bring that back up we've talked about that before on the show, of the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. And so you can see here, there are 48, this is a 48th conviction here as of date July 22nd, 2025. And so you can go and learn more about this. I've talked about it before on the show, but just to show, it's here on the IRS sharing this. But this is out there in our country, and it can be easy to get stuck in our own small world and not believe that there's evilness like this that is out there, where there are fraudsters taking advantage of really good, decent Americans that also could be living paycheck to paycheck and just trying to survive, or even thinking about a small business owner who's trying to keep employees on and not having to not wanting to let go of employees, but it's just so hard with all the payments that they have to make. And taxes is one of them. So a little bit of history to understand with the Federal Unemployment Tax Act. That is the act that then requires business owners to typically pay 0.6% on the first $7,000 of an employee's wages annually. And this was passed back in 1939. It was with other amendments to the Social Security Act passed in 1935. So we were talking less than 100 years where this happened. And I've shared it before, where the payroll tax, it covers Medicare, it covers Social Security. Well, the Congressional Budget Office expects that Social Security will basically be insolvent by 2032. There will not be enough funds to support the amount of Americans that are relying on Social Security. So we have to figure this out in these next few years so that we don't get to that point of 2032 and just think of the short term. We've got to take the time to think about the long term. And that goes back to, how do we have a future where there is no payroll tax? And again, it's with the amount of fraud that is out there, I believe we would be shocked at how much less money is required to run our government than we are paying in taxes. And we are waking up to that fact. No matter how many different arguments are made from our elected officials for why we should be paying more in taxes, we're waking up and pushing back against this. And we are exposing the amount of fraud that is out there. And we're tired of this fraud being out there, and we're tired of our elected officials not focusing on this. And we've got to make sure that we hold our elected officials accountable and remind them that they are there to serve us, the American people. And if not, we've got to figure out the candidates that are wanting to improve the lives of Americans and want to focus on ways in which we can have massive change for the system moving forward, and we gotta highlight these people, these people that are running. I think it's really important to just continue to share this out to society and make people aware in our different states, our different cities. Making sure you understand, as a small business owner, who are your elected officials is really important to understand what they stand for their policies, and then understanding who the candidates are that are running, and determine what their policies are as well. And one part of this movement of making America's future a small business renaissance is making small business first, and figuring out where there are unnecessary regulations, unnecessary taxes, and making sure that we are voicing that to our elected officials to make sure they're taking the time and energy to put towards changing this system so that the incentives align with small business owners that are doing the right thing. They get rewarded, and we've got to continue to talk about this and put the pressure on our elected officials. We have to. So this is laying down the groundwork. I'm going to continue with this series, and I'm going to see what other stories come up relating to fraud as this series continues, to bring them into focus so we're aware of them and that they are out there. Because with all the chaos that is happening, When we can simplify our environment, which includes the amount of taxes that we are having to pay, depending on what industry you're in as a small business owner, potentially on a monthly basis, when we can minimize that or bi-weekly, when we simplify that environment, then we minimize and make it, it helps us, it helps within our day to have way less stress involved. And then we think about our day-to-day operations. It can be easier to move forward in our day-to-day operations, support our teams, support the people that we are serving through our products and services, and then support our community overall. Because when small businesses are thriving, the quality of life of our communities improves. And we got to remind ourselves that as small business owners, we can shape the future of America, and America's future is a small business renaissance. We cannot forget that. And if you are a small business owner who wants to connect with other small business owners in person, who care about our country and love our country, then you can join us in Charleston, South Carolina for A Future Fest. This is how you can register for your spot on January 14th, 15th, 2027. Excited to be able to connect with you and with over 300 other small business owners is the goal for this event in Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm really excited for what we're going to be talking about for ways to move forward and make America's future a small business renaissance. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.